Okay, I'm doing a quick video here showing you guys how to fish hard baits for calico bass in and around boilers. And while everybody is familiar with boiler rocks, where the water is washing up against a rocky shoreline or a cliff, there's a lot more to it than that. In that the places where the fish are a lot of times aren't exactly in that foam and that surging water. They can be out away from that, in rocks that are away from the beach a little bit. They might be in 5 or 6 feet of water, maybe 10 feet, even 20 feet at times, but they're associated with that rocky shoreline. You get that a lot at the islands. We were just at the Coronado Islands and we're fishing in the lee, and there is some surge going on the beach, but most of the activity is coming 15 or 20 feet away from that over rock that's in deeper water that these bass are associating with. So they're not just only in that boiler zone, they're just around the rock, and that water movement that's creating that surge in the boiler zone is also getting the fish that are away from it biting a little bit. If there's turbulent water, visibility can be limited. So whereas a swim bait or some other soft plastic may not get a lot of bites, getting in there with a hard bait makes some noise, gets a chance for those fish to find that bait and bite it. So there's two basic kind of hard baits used in this situation. One would be a diving bait, which is like this Lucky Craft DD100 that has a bill. This thing goes out about 8 to 10 feet. And pretty much everything else is crankbaits. So you have deep diving rip baits or crankbaits. This is a Rapala Risto wrap. These baits allow you to get down deeper, and they're not really ideal for throwing right up into the surging water on the shoreline, but they will get you the bites away from the island. The other baits are shallow running baits like the Daiwa SP Minnow, or different sizes. Starting already. Seville makes a smaller one. These baits range from a 100 size up to about a 190 size. So this would be shallow baits. That'd be a 100 pointer, and that's a 170 Yozuri Hydro Minnow, which is a bait. Or you can even go bigger with a Lucky Craft 190. So that's 190 millimeters, 100 millimeters. That's the size of it. So regardless of what size bait you're fishing, these two different types of baits fish differently. The diving baits fish one way, and the shallow running baits fish another. And not all shallow running baits have a bill. This Seville Stick Shad, shallow running bait with no bill. I know that the long cast minnow has some with no bill. Others have a larger bill, but still acts as a shallow running bait. This Strike King square bill crankbait fish is completely different than this Berkeley Dredge. Even though they're both crankbaits, this is a shallow running bait. This is a deep running bait. So, starting off with deep running baits, you crank these baits down, they get down to a depth, and they usually float. So, if you pick a bait, you want one that floats because it kind of adds that. So what we were doing at the Coronado Islands the other day was making a long cast out, burning the bait down to the depth, and then killing it and letting it float back up. What happens in those areas, there's a lot of noise going on, like I said. There's these bass are hunting, and it takes them a while to find stuff. They hear it, they got a key on where it is. So by burning this bait down to its depth and then giving it a long pause, it's giving the bass a chance to find that bait and get their eye on it and bite it. So Matt actually fished this DD100 on at the Coronados the other day, and I'm actually going to cut in right now and show you a little video of how he was doing it. Coronado Islands here. Got a Matt's fishing the DD100. Do a little video, catch one right now. I'm gonna do a little video showing you how to fish the bait. Show what you're fishing there. That's a DD100 on 15-pound fluorocarbon line. Rain Shadow 76M Revelation rod and a Revo ALX reel. Sorry for all the moving about here, but I'm kind of trying to keep the boat in position too. So we're here down here at South Island. And he's just casting his bait out. And I'm taking 4 or 5 quick winds, pause it. Long pause. Burn it, pause it. When he's pausing it, the bait's floating back up towards the surface. And that's the cadence he's using here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is submerged rock coming out away from the island. There's spots of brown water where it's shallower. We're sitting in 22 feet of water here. We're casting in towards the beach, and we're fishing it out along the rocks that are coming off the island. In the areas where it's just sand, we're not getting any bites. So, this wind noise is going to mess us up. There we go. He's on again. So, there you go. Pretty simple technique. Stop and go, pause, wind, fish it over a rock that's there. Another bass. I'm not getting giant. It's got a couple, probably close to 4 pounds. But it's nice steady fishing on the Lucky Craft DD100. And I'm gonna see if we can do one more cast here. Watch cast up towards the off the front there a little bit. 2 o'clock. So yeah. So as you can see, he's casting close as he can to the island, working it back, burn it down, pause it. That bait will let down 8 or 10 feet, and it'll float back up. And they're biting on them when it's floating back up. So we're just letting the wind drift us down the island here, trying to keep a long cast away from the island. And I don't know if the wind's messing with my microphone here or not, but that's basically what we're doing. I'm not going to drag this video out too long, so he's not going to catch another one, I guess. But yeah, DD100, 15-pound fluorocarbon line, Revo ALX, Rain Shadow Revelation 76M. So a nice soft rod with a good tip, because they have small hooks and they're easy to rip off. But yeah, so he's doing a long pause and then winds again. And they're, almost every bite's going when it's floating up during the pause. That's about it. Okay, so I talked a little bit in the video about the tackle I'm using, but I know it was kind of windy, so it might have been tough to hear. The DD100 is a deep diving pointer lure that's dives to about 8 to 10 feet. As you can see, the hooks aren't really made for calico bass. I already broke one off there. This is a lighter bait. It also comes in a shallow running one, but this would fish differently than the deeper diving one. It also comes in extra deep, which is another dimension. It just dives a little deeper. Any of these light deep diving baits are best fished on fluorocarbon line. This is anything under probably a 150 size bait. The fluorocarbon line not only gives the bait a little bit better action, but it keeps you from pulling the hooks like you would with Spectra. So what I'm fishing here is that 15-pound Berkeley fluorocarbon line, a Rain Shadow Revelation 76M graphite rod, which is a medium action 7'6" rod that has a lot of tip. It's got backbone, but it's a lot softer than anything else I will fish for calico bass. Because again, you hook these bigger fish on this, you want to let them bend the rod instead of rip the hooks out. Revo ALX, which is a freshwater reel that works great for this. Very high speed. I think it's I don't know exactly, 7 to 1 or something like that. 8 to 1. It really lets you pick up line fast. And when you're burning that bait down, you want to make as few turns of the handle as possible, so that fast thing gets you the chance to get it down. And then a lot of times when you get bit on a sink, those bass will hit the bait and come up towards you. They'll just swim up. This allows you to catch back up with them. If you had a lower speed reel, like a crankbait reel, a lot of times you're going to be wanting to catch up and you're going to miss a lot of bites. The other bait that we're fishing in this situation, fishes the same way. I didn't do video of a crankbait, but you're fishing the same way. You're burning it down. In this situation, in this application, you know, you're burning it down, you're killing it, you're letting it float back up, and that gives a chance, these fish a chance to key in on it, locate it, see it floating up, bite it, and almost 99% of your bites should come while this thing's floating up. It'll float up, it'll get whacked, it'll jerk the rod out of your hand, or you'll just see your slack jump out, and you want to start winding. I fished a crankbait on heavier gear because you're going to get, this is going to run deeper and it's going to have contact with the rocks. So, one of the things I didn't mention, in my fluorocarbon rod, I just straight tie the fluorocarbon lure. On any of the baits where I'm fishing a heavy fluorocarbon leader, I'm using an egg snap, decoy egg snap. And they come in a few different sizes. I'm using the size 4 mostly. On some of the real big baits, I'll fish a size 5, which is bigger. And on small, tiny crankbaits and stuff like that, I'll fish a size 3, but I usually only use that in the bay. Anyway, I have this crankbait rigged with this decoy egg snap, which gives it more action. 40-pound fluorocarbon line, 50-pound Spectra. This is a Rain Shadow Judge heavy crankbait rod, graphite composite, and a Revo Toro Beast 40 low-speed reel, which I think is 5.4 to 1. 5.8 to 1. The faster one is like 6 something or 7 something. What's nice about this over a conventionally slower crankbait reel like you would use for spotted bay bass or whatever is you don't have to turn the handle so fast to get the bait down fishing. So you can just give it 2 or 3 quick turns to the handle and you're going to be down at depth. And then you just do the same thing, same way that Matt was fishing in a DD100 video. Nice long pause. Sometimes these fish want a much longer pause than other times. You need to figure that out and key into it. Try different, do 10 turns and then pause it for 5 seconds. Do 5 turns and pause it for 10 seconds. Just try different things. And when you get a bite, just keep expanding on that. Just like the DD100, this bait is cast towards the shoreline and fished out over deeper structure. Get a crankbait that runs to an approximate depth, then you're going to be fishing. If you're fishing in 10 feet of water, this is a Berkeley Dredger 17. This thing will run 10 or 12 feet, which would be a perfect bait. If you fish as 25, you're just going to get hung up in the rocks the whole day. That build, it's a slightly larger profile, but the extra diving is going to kill you. If you want to fish a bigger bait, comparable size bait, smaller bill, this is a 6X Strike King. So you want to find ones that dive to the depths that you are fishing. Baits in saltwater don't dive as deep as baits do in freshwater. So if it's a freshwater bait, you're going to lose 2 or 3 feet of depth on it when you're cranking it salt. What may look weird, but a good color for cranking is always the red or orange. A lot of crab and stuff in the surf line, and also this color, red's first color disappears. This will look light blue once it gets down 10 or 12 feet. So just don't hesitate to get something that looks a little off for saltwater fishing. With crankbaits, a good rule of thumb is if the water is dirty, I'll use a bright color. If the water is really clean, I'll use a natural color. With the pointers, I'll always use a natural color. This trip to the Coronados we had, I was fishing this color which is called Aurora Shad. Most of it's bitten off the jig here, but it's like black with blue and silver. Matt tied on a very similar color but did not have the black back and could not get a single bite on it. He tied on this color and it was wide open. So if you're not getting bit in an area you think you should be getting bit, try some different colors because you never know if it's just the color you're using. Even if they bit it last week, they might not bite it today. So that's why I would bring a variety of colors with me. And bring at least 2 of each, because if you lose one, you're going to be bummed. Alright, the next application is going to be the non-diving bait, which is any shallow running bait. I just started fishing this Seville Slim Puncher. This is a 120 size bait the other day for the first time. I really like it. SP Minnow, Yozuri Hydro Minnow, any of them. They all basically fish the same. For baits that are 150 or smaller in size, 150 is getting a millimeter, that's how they size these baits. I'll go with a lighter rod, and again I have a 30-pound fluorocarbon line leader with an egg snap. I think I have the number 4 here. I have 30-pound braid. I have a Revo inshore reel. This is a little bit lighter than the last one. I used to fish 50-pound of this application, but I find a 30-pound cast better, and I haven't lost any fish with it, so I'm okay with it. I've upgraded to a Rain Shadow Revelation 710 MH, which is 1 step above and a little bit longer, 6 inches longer, not that it matters, than the other rod I was using for the lighter stuff. I don't go with a really heavy rod here again because with the smaller baits under 150 size, you can cast them on a heavier rod, but if your rod's too stiff, you're going to pull the hooks on them. You can see that this bait has a much smaller hook than, say, this Yozuri. So the smaller the hooks, the lighter or softer the rod you want, because you don't want the thing dripping out of the fish's mouth. If I'm fishing baits over the 150 size, and I'll fish anything up to an SP Minnow on that, which I think is a 150. I'll go with a bigger rod. This is a Seville Bull Minnow. It's just a wide body, shallow running bait. Again, with the Yozuri, the big Lucky Craft, the Stick Shad, any of these you can fish on this heavier rod. I've upgraded again. I've got 40-pound fluorocarbon. I've got the bigger clip. I've got 50-pound braid now, and I'm fishing this on a Revo Beast 40 high speed, which is a 7.3 to 1 as opposed to 5.8 to 1 crankbait reel, because I'm going to want to pick up line faster. I've upgraded to a heavier rod. This is the Rain Shadow Revelation 710H, which is the heaviest. The Revelation line, actually, they make a 711 double XH, which I really like for hard baits as well. It's even heavier than this one is, and so they're both great. You know, if you're just looking for a dedicated heavy hard bait rod, I would go with the 711 double XH. But if you want something that's more all around, you can fish a swim bait or a slug or whatever on this 710H is pretty hard to beat. Anyway, well, Matt wasn't lucky enough to catch any bass on the shallow running bait while I was filming for the 30 seconds. I do have some video of how the bait is fished, and I'm going to show that to you here. Okay, I'm going to show you how another bait fishes here. Matt's throwing the Daiwa SP Minnow, the 170 size or 150 size, I think it is. 150, right? Yeah. And he's fishing that on a Revo inshore with, he's using 30-pound Spectra to a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. This bait, you don't need fluorocarbon line to fish it. It's got a little size 4 decoy egg snap holding the lure on there. And that is a Rain Shadow Revelation 710 MH rod and a Revo inshore. And what he's doing, kind of similar with the last bait, is he's casting it right up to the rocks here. We're kind of in the same situation, but he's not doing that long pause anymore. He turned towards me a little bit, Matt, so you can see the reel. So he's kind of just doing a erratic stop and go retrieve, speed it up, slow it down, throw a little slack in there, but he's not actually stopping and pausing like he was before. And that bait is only running a few feet deep, so you can get it up real shallow. And hold the bait up real quick. There you go.
Perfect. I'll hold it right there.
Yeah. The hooks are very sharp. Anyway, so that's the SP Minnow that we're using. All right, go ahead and make a cast maybe up to that white water right there. Again, so yeah, he's trying to get it. I mean, throw it right into the rocks. He landed like 3 inches from the rocks. That's the key to getting bit with these baits here. Well, when he catches something, he may not, but you can see the cadence he's using on that reel. And that's just giving that bait an erratic swimming action. And these fish will come out into open water away from the shoreline if there's I don't know if it's coming through in the video, but you can see there's dark spots out there. And a lot of our bites are coming off those dark spots as opposed to just coming off the rock. So when fishing boilers like this, I'll sit a long cast off the island so we can hit the boiler zone like you did right there, but we can also fish out into open water for the stop and go retrieve. And we're basically only fishing hard baits today. I have a slightly bigger Seville hard bait on a Toro Beast 40 with a Rain Shadow 710H Revelation to throw for bigger fish, also shallow running. And then a Seville smaller bait. I think it's a 120 size hard bait, similar to an SP Minnow, on the same rod Matt's throwing, and we're getting bit on different size baits in different spots. So that's basically it with hard bait fishing. It's just a lot of casts covering water, looking for water movement. We're on the lee of the South Island here, so there's not a lot. There's mostly no surge in areas like this here with a little bit of surge and some rock coming off the island. This could be a zone that you want to make a few casts. And while we're not getting bit, we're probably going to go up to that next little spot right there. So today we just jumped from edge to edge. So that's it, hard bait fishing. Nice and easy. All right, so basically, if you learn how to fish the lures properly for the different types of lures, and you trust that you're winding them properly, and you know what the structure you're looking for is, you should be able to catch fish wherever you go. But one of the things I didn't talk about in the video, and it's always the important thing, is those fish, there's a lot of, especially like at an island, Coronado Islands, wherever you're at, there's a ton of shoreline, and there's not bass every 5 feet. So you got to cover a lot of water when you're hard bait fishing boiler rocks like this. It's not like you pull up to a point, cast for 30 minutes and see if you get a bite or not. I mean, I'll pull up, and if I don't get a bite in the first 5 casts, I'm moving. Unless there's some other sign, like I see bait or other feeding activity. I'll give it a couple more minutes, but I mean, if it's not biting, it's not biting. You don't need a trolling motor for this. I don't even put mine down anymore. I just get on the main motor. I fish from the console. If it's wind, I let it blow me along the island. If it's not, make a couple casts, move forward to the next good looking spot of surge. And you know, the surge on the shoreline is a good indicator. We had a tournament at Santa Cruz Island a few years ago. Man, I had a really good hardbait or crankbait bite, and we fished through all over water, and we were looking for something else, but I did not see conditions anywhere. I stopped in a couple places, but didn't really catch anything. As I'm driving, I saw a probably 10-foot section of conditions that was 4 or 5 miles away from where we were catching fish. Just this one area, a little point that came out, a little bit of surge on it. We went under our first cast. Matt had a double on a crankbait of probably a 4.5, one that was close to 6 pounds, one on each hook. And I mean, we torched from there, fished through that, it was gone again. But once you start to identify what that looks like, you can go along. You don't have to fish everything in between. You can stop and make a couple casts, see if there's, hey, maybe they're biting here too, but really focus on what did the shoreline look like? Was there surge going against it? Was there rock coming off the island? Was there kelp stringers on that rock? Was there bait around there? Which way was the current going? Is there any birds in the water? You start to notice these patterns, and suddenly you can fish a lot faster. We had spots at Coronados the other day where once I fished for maybe a half mile, quarter mile, I knew what I was looking for, what was biting, what wasn't. So once I knew what was biting, I just kept my eyes on the shoreline. I looked at what it looked like on the bottom, and I looked for bait. And when I saw those things, any of those things, I would stop and, okay, hey, we got the right shoreline. Okay, there's rock here. Oh, there's bait. Let's make a few casts, catch 5 or 10 fish, move on to the next one. The same thing on the beach. You know, there could be a beach that has rocks off of it. If you see rocks there and you see bait, you get a bite, and then you go on, there's more rocks and no bait, and you don't get a bite, you can know that you need to keep driving until you see more bait. And that's one of the great things about fishing a hardbait is you can fish it really fast. And you can just bomb cast out and wind through. If you make 2 or 3 fan casts over a spot with a hardbait and you don't get a bite or don't have a follower or don't see anything, they're probably not biting there. So just go ahead and move on. It's pretty simple. Cover water, fish shallow running baits sometimes, fish deep running baits others, and fish them differently. Don't just tie it on and cast every bait the same. And the one last thing I'm going to say is every bait swims differently at a different cadence, at a different speed. So my first cast with a new bait, if I'm unfamiliar with it, is 20 feet, and I'll watch it go, and I'll, okay, lob it back out. Speed it up a little bit, slow it down a little bit, stop and go. You want to make that thing swim erratically. So if it's just going like this the whole way back, it's no reason to make a long cast with it. You don't need to cast that far. So just lob a cast out, watch what the bait's doing, mess around with it. Once you got something that looks like something that a fish might bite, then make a couple long casts. If you don't get bit, adjust it. And these adjustments are going to lead you to getting bites, and when you get those bites, you can translate them into more bites. So there you go, hardbait fish, good stuff.